Welcome to Wildcats Weekly, presented by Armored Roofing. Ben Horner here with you, Cats fans, voice of the Wildcats. So pleased to be bringing you this great edition and a playoff preview edition of Wildcats Weekly, presented by Armored Roofing. It's been too long since we last had a show, and on this week's edition, we'll sit down with Wildcats head coach John LaFontaine, get his thoughts on the playoff series ahead with the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees. We'll also speak with Nick Farmer, who recently made a commitment to Niagara University to play Division I college hockey. And of course, we'll get you the news and notes you need for the week ahead. Don't call it a comeback. It's Wildcats Weekly, presented by Armored Roofing. It has been too long. It has been too long. Welcome to Wildcats Weekly, presented by Armored Roofing. Ben Horner with you here, and joining me now for the first time in, well, it seems like 2 or 3 months at this point, Wildcats head coach John LaFontaine. We got a great interview lined up for you today as the Wildcats are primed and ready to open the Robertson Cup playoffs this Thursday night against the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees. We'll dive into that in just a second. And John, normally this is the first segment of the interview, and we'll dive into the Wildcats last weekend, and we'll touch on that weekend against Lone Star. But moreover, since it's been a while since we've had a Wildcats Weekly, we're going to kind of take an overview of the last couple of months since we last spoke, and kind of break down the stretch run a little bit before we dive into that playoff series this upcoming weekend. So we'll start just briefly with that weekend against Lone Star, one of the biggest regular season series in recent memory for the Wildcats. And we talked heading into that weekend that it was going to be some great hockey, and although the Wildcats came out on the short end of the scoreline both nights, in terms of the competitiveness and the nature of the game, they did not disappoint in that regard.
No, it was playoff intensity, playoff environment. Their building had events going on, and it was just people running all over the place. So, and hockey was playoff, obviously, for what was at stake. And other than a couple bounces, our guys, I thought, played really hard. They competed, and they played the game, the Grande game that we're going to need to play in the playoffs to have success. If we just don't look at the scoreboard, they were both one-goal games, and we competed in all areas. We didn't turn the puck over. We played strong. We're going to work hard to the next opportunity. The bounces hopefully will come our way, and you work for those. But our guys have continuously and steadily been getting closer to playing playoff hockey, and that weekend, this past weekend, was kind of an affirmation for us as a staff and a team that we're ready for the playoffs.
Certainly more physical play from the Wildcats this past weekend, continuing on what we saw out of the Cats after that Rio Grande Valley weekend. So that's certainly kind of getting drilled into the Wildcats, it seems like. John, one specific question on Saturday. 16 shots on goal for the Wildcats, 16 shots on goal for the Brahmas. As a coach, what does that tell you? Does that speak to offense being limited? Does that speak to defense playing their game plan? What can you read into those shot totals?
Well, we had gone into their building, and if you take the last 4 games in their building, we put over 30 shots on, which is rare for them to give up in their building. They play very stingy in their building. So we showed that we could generate our offense, generate our shots that we're used to each night. And that last game, it was even more of a defensive type of game. Both teams were not willing to take chances. Both teams were willing to sacrifice a little bit of offense for defense to not give up easy opportunities. And you're talking about two teams with a lot of firepower and a lot of players that can bury the puck. And so that's probably going to be more what playoffs are going to look like from here on.
Certainly a nice little primer. John, let's kind of take a look at the stretch run as a whole here. Back in June, I remember being in the van riding to the rink there for Colorado camp, and you and I were kind of talking about the schedule, and you immediately pointed to the fact that the Wildcats had to close with 13 of their last 16 on the road. We've basically had that stretch run circled for an entire year at this point. Overall, knowing full well that that was going to be such a difficult stretch, what was your overview? What was your takeaway? Did you like the way your team handled that stretch of games?
I did, Ben. It was a tough stretch. Everybody in this division is very strong, protects their home ice, plays that much better at home. And there was if you just don't take the last 2 losses, all of a sudden we have 16 wins on the road, more than anybody. I think we still ended up with more wins than anybody on the road, and less losses than anybody on the road until the last 2 on the weekend. So we played well. We showed that we could play on the road, and it was a good stretch for us to learn how to play playoff hockey. We went into the last 8, and our whole goal was to change our game over a little bit. It's a different game in the playoffs, and our guys needed to play a little bit simpler hockey game and not play as much one-on-one. And we don't really want to play one-on-one anyway, but we were used to making plays in areas of the ice that you have to be a little safer because everybody's playing better defensively. Everybody has men back, and it's hard to have room going through the mid zone. So our guys are competing, and our guys are playing their best brand of hockey when we need to, and that's most important.
Yeah, that's exactly what playoffs are about. John, one thing I noticed, or one thing that we should mention here, you look at the record over that stretch run, 8-4-4 over those 16 games, which is a very strong record in its own right, but it gets even stronger when you factor out those final 2 games. The Wildcats essentially went almost 2 full months with only having 2 regulation losses, and although it was a little bit disheartening, disappointing not to pick up the second point in those overtime losses, there's something to be said for finding a way to battle out and pick up points even when you might not be playing at your best.
Yeah, the disappointments came when we had leads and we couldn't keep them. That was more of a trend. There was a couple games when we had to battle back and tie a team late and go into overtime, but us learning to close teams out and play better, more sound defensively has been a focus, and it became a focus even more with those games where we just couldn't close teams out. Topeka comes to mind. Both those games went to overtime, and we had leads late into the game, one with 2 minutes left, one with 5 minutes left, and then Rio was the same thing. So we needed to get some confidence. We need to get our defensive play up to the level that's going to have success in the playoffs, and that's been a goal, and guys have worked hard to get to that. And, that's what you want for the playoffs. It's not going to be the team that's running and gunning in the regular season, because seen it time and time again. Watched it in college hockey this past weekend that the upsets were the team that got a hot goalie and were willing to play D and block shots, and that's the mentality we're going to have.
How about Massa for Nebraska Omaha? In particular, if you don't know the story behind that one, check out collegehockeyinc.com and get the full story. A lot of fun stuff going on in college hockey, and actually some Wildcats alumni who had some pretty strong weekends. More on that later on. John, let's kind of take a look at the playoffs as a whole, and you've kind of alluded to what makes playoff hockey such a different style. It's a little bit more cagey, a little bit more defensive-minded. But at the same time, there's an intensity and an adrenaline rush to playoff hockey that really sets it apart from regular season play. For you, what makes playoff hockey so special?
Well, you're playing for something. A league title, you forget about those, where you finish in the league. It's when you're the last team standing, and that's what you play the 60 games for, is to get better and get your team prepared to be the team that is going into playoffs playing their best. And that's been our goal. Special teams become a even bigger issue in the playoffs, and we've been working on our penalty kill to get that to where it needs to be, and we've improved on our penalty kill the last month, which has been a must. Our power play has dipped a little bit in that time, and so we got to get that back to where it needs to be. But other than that, we feel pretty comfortable. We just want to go in and play our game.
John, the Wildcats miss out on the bye. That's obviously a little bit disappointing from just a aesthetic point of view. It would have been nice for Cats fans to check those standings and see their team in one of those top spots. From your point of view, though, is it a good or a bad thing to have that bye, or is it a little bit of both?
When you come to this time of year, it's hard to take a week off. It really is, and keep that same edge that you need to play in the playoffs. And now, with that said, it can be done. But we're not in a situation where we have all kinds of injuries. We're in a good situation. Our guys have battled through some injuries, and we're healthy. There's not anybody that is going to be out for this weekend because of injuries. So you because of that, it doesn't hurt us to play. I'm actually excited to play. It's 2 home games we probably wouldn't get. Wouldn't get if we had to bye, and it keeps us with that edge that you need to play in the playoffs. You can't lose that edge. You got to understand how hard it is and how tough it is. There's no open ice out there in the playoffs. Everybody is playing that much tougher. You don't have much room, and if you guys aren't mentally prepared for that, then that week off doesn't help you.
Speaking of that edge, we'll go back to the physicality thing in just a second. It seems like that has really become or it has taken on a larger role in the Wildcats game over the last few weeks, and especially that weekend against Rio Grande Valley. That was something that you were very quick to point out. It'd be interesting to see how that carries over to this playoff series. John, one more question kind of generally on the playoffs before we really dive into the specifics here of this series with the Killer Bees. This was a record-setting year for the Wildcats. Most goals, most power play goals, or I should say best power play percentage, and also the big one, best regular season record in franchise history. 39 wins is a franchise record for a single season. 2 questions. Can it be difficult to refocus and wipe the slate clean after a year like that? And what role do the veterans play in something like that? And I know that I'll throw out this caveat. I know you've liked to talk about how the younger guys aren't rookies anymore. There are no rookies. There are no vets. But there is certainly value in having been in the playoffs before.
Oh, yeah, that experience, you want your players hungry. The year before, if they didn't have success, you want them leading your team saying, guys, this is what it's going to take. This is what happened, why we didn't get it done last year. And we have that. We have guys that have been through it, that understand what it's going to take. It's a different commitment level. It's a different intensity level. You've got to go with every shift that you're not going to win a race to the puck. You're going to win every race to the puck. You're going to win the battles. You're going to do the little things, and you're going to come back just as hard as you play on offense. And it's taken some time for our guys to understand that. And I think our guys understand that it's been a really strong year, but it doesn't mean anything if we don't come together at the right time in the playoffs.
And speaking of that hunger and that hearkening back to experiences in years past, Rio Grande Valley and the Wildcats, both teams that made the playoffs in the South Division last year, both teams that suffered 3-game sweeps. Both teams going to be very hungry to have a much different postseason this year and this time around. John, that's a perfect segue to look at this series up on deck. Rio Grande Valley skating into the KYC for games 1 and 2 on Thursday and Friday of the South Division play-in series. Should a game 3 be needed, it would be Monday evening, April the 6th, at the State Farm Arena in Hidalgo, Texas, tentatively scheduled for 7:30 there. But obviously the Wildcats, hoping that it won't get to a game 3, games 1 and 2. They're hoping to get business done there at the KYC. The Cats were 5-1-2 against the Bees this season, but dropped those overtime contests a couple of weeks ago. And of course, as we know, you have to throw the book out from the regular season. It's a completely clean slate.
Yeah, they're a scrappy team, man, and they've been in playoff mode as a team for some time. They've been fighting to get in the playoffs, so they're playing at the level they want to play in for playoffs that they know they got to play. They've got speed. They move the puck quick. They keep it simple, and they finish checks. They're scrappy, so they aren't as maybe prolific as far as maybe on the power play as some of the other teams that we're playing. But they don't want to get 5-4 on you. They want to play. They want to win 2-1, and so they've been playing a playoff mode as it is. Our guys, we're going to have to play that much stronger to box out, to not let them get to our goaltenders, to make sure the neutral zone is tough for them to come through, especially their defense. Their defense will get the puck and go. If we're not doing a good job of angling them off and forcing them to make decisions before they get to the red, then we're going to be hemmed in. So we've got to make sure we're ready to outwork them, and we've got to make sure we're willing to get the pucks first.
It's interesting that you mentioned that neutral zone being a key for the Wildcats on the defensive side, because I imagine about 800 miles to our south, Joe Coombs is saying essentially the same thing about the Rio Grande Valley on the defensive side. They like to clog up the neutral zone. They like to make it very difficult for teams to skate past them and through them into the offensive zone. With the team speed the Wildcats have, with the offensive skill that they have, what then becomes the game plan? What is the key to getting around that neutral zone? We don't want to call it a trap necessarily, but that neutral zone clog.
Yeah, I mean, you have to end up more indirect type of plays where you're using the boards and not trying to make plays through the middle, because they'll plug the middle up very strong, and they'll match us with their speed and their tenacity with angling us off in the mid zone. So we've got to be able to be patient and smart in areas. And when I say patient, I should say actually the opposite. We have to have a little more sense of urgency to get pucks on the other side of them, and use our speed to go get the pucks, and use our strength to be able to establish some offense from there. We want to move the puck quick. We want to be strong in the puck, and then we want to make sure we're bringing the puck to the net.
Yeah, thinking back to that weekend a couple weeks ago, there was maybe 1 or 2 times over the entire weekend that the Wildcats were really able to skate through the neutral zone and into the offensive zone with any sort of clean entry into that offensive area. So it's certainly going to be an interesting weekend at the KYC. John, what is your biggest key, or what are your biggest keys to this weekend series as the Wildcats embark on the road to the Robertson Cup?
Well, Ben, we want to keep the game simpler, and we want to get our pucks going more to the net. They block a lot of shots on us, some our own doing, some their effort on blocking. We got to keep our feet moving and shoot quicker and think shot quicker. We have a tendency to overpass at times. It's playoff hockey. We've been working on making quicker decisions with the puck, moving the puck quicker, and getting the puck to the net and really crashing the net. And that's got to be our mode, and then obviously continue with our defensive effort that we've seen the last few weeks.
All right, John, thanks for joining us. Reminder, Game 1 on Thursday evening, 7:05 p.m. Tickets available at the KYC box office, or you can call 716-5555. Tickets start at just $8 for kids and $10 for adults. Game 2, Friday evening, and should there be a Game 3, it would be on Monday in Hidalgo down there at the State Farm Arena. John, thanks for joining us. We'll step aside. When we come back, we'll hear from the most recent Wildcats player to make a commitment. Nick Farmer is headed to Niagara University. We'll be back in just a second when Wildcats Weekly, presented by Armored Roofing, returns. Ben Horner with you here, Wildcats fans, and joining me now is Wildcats forward Nick Farmer with some very good news. Nick recently committed to Niagara University of the Atlantic Hockey Association. Nick, first and foremost, congratulations on a commitment that's been a long time coming. Everyone around this organization and your previous teams knows how hard you've worked to reach this point. Thanks for taking some time to join us. And right off the bat, what's your initial reaction to finally getting this Division I commitment secured?
It's been, I feel great. It's been a long time coming, but I'm still focusing on playoffs a lot. It's the end of the year, and we have to focus on what really counts, and that's in the future. But it's great to get that off the back of your mind. That's why you're here, to get a Division I scholarship and a Division I commitment. But still, you're playing for playoffs and that league championship, so you got to keep that in your mind.
It certainly comes at an interesting time of the season for you, Nick, as you just mentioned, the playoffs right around the corner for the Wildcats, taking on the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees in round 1 this Thursday and Friday. Before we dive back into that a little bit, take us through your recruiting process overall, because it's been an up and down process for you over the last couple of years. This year in particular, though, it seemed like the process was a little bit smoother for you.
Yeah, like last year, I still talk to some schools, but with our placing in the division, like for prospects and stuff, we only sent 3 guys, and so nothing really happened there. I didn't go to prospects last year, and this year it's been good. It's in my 3rd year, so I have a lot more confidence than the past 2 years, and I got to go to prospects, which was like an unbelievable experience. You look up playing the USA U18 team, and there's just all black coat scouts in the stands, so it was very cool for that, and a really good exposure going to that.
To touch a little bit more on the Top Prospects tournament, do you think that played a really large role in your recruiting process this year?
Yeah, definitely. There I talked to a bunch of schools, and that's where Niagara saw me, and they called me from there, so it really did help a lot.
Back to last year a little bit, though, there was some whispers at the end of the year that there might be a commitment coming through the pipeline for you. Unfortunately, it doesn't pan out. How do you, coming into your final year of junior eligibility, how do you put that behind you? How do you put that out of your mind and try and refocus yourself and continue to chase that goal?
You're coming into your last year of junior hockey, so what I tried to do is just keep thinking positive and have as much fun with it as I could, because it's my last year of juniors, and tried not really thinking about the division or the college hockey stuff until it happened and stuff, and I just focused on having fun and getting a good last year of juniors in with all my teammates and friends.
Yeah, and how about 55 points in that last season of junior eligibility for Nick Farmer? And if there's one way to draw a lot of attention to yourself, it's to have a month of January like you did. It seemed like every single game there was points on the board or a goal or something like that for Nick. And as we're speaking with Nick Farmer, breaking down the good news of his recent commitment, I should correct myself, 53 points. Sorry there, Nick. Give you credit for a couple of extra, but still career highs in goals, career highs in assists, career highs in points. Nick, was there something about this year that just everything seemed to line up for you, or was it just a combination of the players that you've had an opportunity to play with this year, knowing this league, being that little bit older, a little bit more experienced, that made it such a successful regular season for you?
Yeah, I definitely got to give all the credit to my teammates and stuff, and my line mates that I've had the privilege to play with all year. And yeah, third year coming in, I mean, you're a leader on the team and stuff, and you got to prove to your teammates and to everyone around that you've been here for a while and that you can play and stuff.
So now that presents an interesting opportunity because while you've got that, and Colin Staub has mentioned this as well, while you've got that thought of a commitment in the back of your mind, there's still that responsibility of, especially at the beginning of the year, okay, we've got a bunch of guys who are coming into their first season of junior eligibility. Taking on that quiet leadership role at the beginning of the year, do you think that played a positive impact in helping you stay focused on the task at hand, which was helping this team win? And correspondingly, that creates the opportunities for the recruiting options.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, guys coming into the league first year, I mean, I was nervous first time being away from home like that, and you're nervous and stuff, and just being close with the guys and stuff and leading the way quietly, or like you said, Staub's been a great leader, and he's shown every guy like how hard to work and stuff. And Towns and me are being our third year. I think we've done a good job leading the way, and it's been a really good year so far.
Let's talk about Niagara more specifically, Nick, and this is a program that is on the up. They've got some new facilities there, and as a program, they've been doing better over the last few years, playing in the Atlantic Hockey Association, which some people might not associate as a traditional college hockey powerhouse, although we should note RIT, the Atlantic Hockey Champions, recently knocked out the number one overall seed in the NCAA men's ice hockey tournament, so certainly any conference is a good conference to play D1 college hockey in. Nick, what about that school and what about that program really grabbed your attention, really drew you to that program?
Yeah, I mean, when I went for my visit, it's a beautiful place, Western New York, and the campus, it's small. It's a smaller school and more one-on-one with teachers in the classroom and stuff, and the guys I really bonded with, and the coaches were great. I mean, they were friendly guys and stuff, and really easy to talk to, so I think that really helped my decision out. And the Atlantic Conference, I mean, it's a great conference. You have an opportunity to put up points, and you have a chance to go to the tournament every year. So it's a great conference to be in.
Added bonus, you get to play with and against a whole bunch of former teammates. Looking forward to that first time you see the Air Force Falcons on the schedule?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's going to be, 6 guys that I've played with the past 3 years on that team. So it'll be a good chance to bond with them again and say hi to them, but it'll be fun.
Some chirpable opportunities in the Atlantic Hockey Conference for Nick Farmer next year, that's for sure. Nick, what are you most looking forward to next season? Is it just the overall experience of playing college hockey? Is it playing in front of all those fans and the students? What are you most looking forward to as you start your college experience?
Just moving on, going to school and stuff while playing hockey and getting a great education while playing hockey.
Any concerns about stepping back into the classroom after a few years away here, Nick?
No, actually, I'm pretty excited to get back into it. I mean, you play a couple years of juniors, and you get a little bored, and you start getting back into reading and classroom stuff, and you get more and more excited.
It's an interesting mindset, really, because you come out of high school and everyone's ready to be done with class, and then all of a sudden a year or two away, and you get that itch coming back again. Nick, let's talk a little bit about your time here in Wichita Falls, and it has been a long time. 3 years. Not too many players throughout franchise history have had that luxury, of that opportunity to become such a big part of this community over the last few years. What's going to stick out to you? What's going to be your fondest memory of your time here in Wichita Falls?
Just how close everyone is. I mean, with the organization, with the team. Over the past 3 years, I think our team has bonded like no other, and the coaches have been great, and the whole community. I mean, when we go out and do community stuff, the people are just so nice here, and they're so welcoming to all the kids that are coming from out of town and new places, and they've been really great here.
With the commitment secured, you mentioned the playoffs. how do you stay focused, and how do you go about making sure your teammates are focused as the playoff run comes to a head here?
Like I said before, we're a really bonding team, and we all really get along together. So we just try to reiterate, like, the season can end whenever, and like we got to keep going and as long as we can, and stay together as long as we can.
Now, one other note here, Nick, and people who are listening to this interview after the fact won't be able to see this, but Nick has one of the most aggressive and impressive flows that we've seen in the last couple of years here. And there's actually an interesting story to it. It started out as just a little bit of a friendly bet between you and Jake Townsend, was it not?
Yeah, me and Jake, I actually bet him $10 that I would not cut my hair the whole season. I haven't gotten a haircut since July 22nd, I think, in the summer. So I'm going to keep that going as long as I can.
So basically, it's been since main camp, and you haven't had a single trim.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Right before main camp, I got it cut, and ever since, nothing.
Oh man. Well, if you don't come away with flow of the month this month, I'm going to be severely disappointed. Nick, we're going to give you an opportunity to say a few thank yous to the people who have helped you along the way. So take it away.
Yeah, I would just like to thank the whole Wildcat organization, the coaches, and everything. The past 3 years, they've been nothing but great help, and my teammates, I couldn't have done it without any of them. They've been great. They've been supportive, and my billets, Jack and Tracy Kobe, for letting me stay with them for 3 years, and of course my parents, my friends back home. They've been nothing but supportive, and I mean, you start playing hockey at 4 years old, and you're 20 years old as soon as you know it, and I mean, they've supported me the whole way, so I just really like to say thank you to all you guys.
And a nice little added thank you. Nick will be attending Niagara University on a 4-year full ride. So all that investment and all those early morning skates and new bags and new pads and new equipments and new sticks, I'm sure they're going to be pretty happy for that one. Nick, once again, congratulations on a very well-deserved commitment.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to keeping tabs on your exploits next season and beyond. Nick Farmer recently committed to Niagara University. Everyone at the Wildcats sends a hearty congratulations to Nick. That was Nick Farmer speaking with me earlier this week after committing to Niagara University of the Atlantic Hockey Association. Big congratulations from all of us here at the Wildcats to Nick Farmer for earning that opportunity. He certainly deserves every chance that he's going to get there with the Purple Eagles and the Atlantic Hockey Association. One quick note, though, another collegiate note. Tucker Pullman and the University of North Dakota will be the Wildcats' sole alumni representative in the 2015 Frozen Four, which will see the North Dakota team take on the Boston University Terriers with an opportunity to play for the national title. That coming up next weekend, not this weekend here, as the Wildcats will be focused solely on the task at hand against the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees, which of course will bring us to our final segment of the show, the news and notes you need for the week ahead. Well, we've mentioned it throughout this show. Game 1 of the 2015 Robertson Cup playoffs are this Thursday, 7:05 start time at the K. Yeager Coliseum. Game 2 will be Friday, 7:05 start time at the K. Yeager Coliseum. Now, tickets are on sale now. All you have to do is go to the KYC box office or give them a call, 716-5555. Reminder, tickets start at just $8 for kids and $10 for adults. Season ticket holders, your tickets are on hold until Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. So contact the KYC box office as soon as possible to ensure that you're able to get your normal seats. Another reminder, season tickets for the 2015-16 campaign are still on sale, and there's still time to take advantage of some of our early bird savings. Pay in full by May the 31st and save $21 per seat. Reminder, there's new seating categories, new pricing, and new options for season tickets next year. There's never been a better time to be a Wildcats season ticket holder. Give us a call at 716-5587 and let us set up a season ticket package that suits you best. Well, until then, that'll wrap it up here for another edition of Wildcats Weekly presented by Armored Roofing. 2 big games this Thursday and Friday as the Wildcats kick off the road to the Robertson Cup. We hope to see you all at the KYC for the games this weekend. Until then, I'm Ben Horner saying thanks for joining us on Wildcats Weekly presented by Armored Roofing. Have a good week, everybody, and go Cats.